A stupid man is someone who lacks critical thinking, the ability to assess situations thoughtfully, to consider all sides before making a decision. It's one of the clearest signs that something is off when you see someone acting without pausing to analyze the facts. You ever met someone who just acts on impulse, without stopping to really think things through? It's almost like they're just going through the motions, reacting to the world around them without ever really understanding it. You see, critical thinking isn't just about being smart. It's about being aware. It's about taking a moment to step back and ask, why am I doing this? What will happen if I make this choice? What does this decision mean for me and for the people around me? A person who lacks this kind of awareness doesn't bother asking those questions. Instead, they jump in without considering the consequences, leaving themselves open to failure time and time again. And that's what we're dealing with here, the difference between reacting and responding. When you react, you're not really in control. You're just a slave to your impulses, your emotions. Responding, on the other hand, requires thought. It requires you to pause, to evaluate, and then to make a conscious decision based on logic and reason. The person who lacks critical thinking will always be reactive. They won't see the bigger picture. They'll never understand that sometimes the best response is the one that requires a moment of patience. Now, I'm not saying that we don't all make mistakes. We do. We all miss the mark sometimes, especially when life throws us curveballs. But the key here is the ability to learn, to adapt, and to grow from those experiences. If you lack critical thinking, you'll make the same mistakes over and over again, without ever realizing that it's your inability to stop and think that's holding you back. It's about being stuck in a loop of foolish decisions, driven by emotion, but never moving forward with any sense of purpose or understanding. Look, I've seen it myself. People who don't take the time to think for themselves, people who rely on others to tell them what's right or wrong, without ever questioning or exploring it for themselves. And that's dangerous. The world doesn't owe you anything. Nobody is going to hand you success or wisdom. It's earned through reflection, experience, and understanding the world as it really is, not just as you want it to be. What's worse is when people don't recognize the consequences of their actions. They act as if nothing matters beyond the moment. They think a quick decision is better than taking the time to think through it. But we all know that a hasty decision is often a poor one, and the cost of that poor decision, it's more than just a mistake. It's wasted time, broken trust, lost opportunities. A stupid man lacks the ability to think critically because he believes that intuition and gut feelings are enough. Maybe sometimes they are, but they're not the only tools in your toolbox. You have to sharpen that mind, challenge those assumptions, question what's being handed to you. You can't just accept things as they are. You have to engage, you have to analyze. Critical thinking is what separates those who succeed from those who struggle. It's the difference between moving forward and staying stuck. At the end of the day, it's all about the choices you make. If you can't take a step back and think before acting, you're setting yourself up for failure. You'll find yourself making decisions that don't serve you or anyone else in the long run. So remember this: if you can't think critically, you'll be just another person reacting to life instead of responding with purpose. One of the clearest signs of a stupid man is his inability to learn from his mistakes. You know, we all mess up from time to time, but there's a difference between making a mistake and staying stuck in it. The stupid man is the one who never takes a step back to reflect. He'll make the same errors over and over, without ever understanding what went wrong or how to do better next time. He'll find himself in the same situation again, in the same mess, and wonder why nothing changes. It's like a hamster on a wheel, running hard but never getting anywhere. Learning from your mistakes requires humility. It requires the courage to look at yourself and say, I could have done better, or I didn't get that right. That's hard, isn't it? Because no one likes to admit that they've failed, But the person who can't do this is stuck in a dangerous cycle. They let pride and ego get in the way of growth. They'll try to justify their actions, make excuses, or blame others instead of owning up to their part in the situation. And every time they do that, they miss the opportunity to grow, to improve, and to get better. It's easy to point fingers and blame everything around us. It wasn't my fault, they say, but the truth is, no matter what happened, the only thing that can change is you. If you keep acting the same way, with the same habits and mindset, then you're bound to keep running into the same problems. That's why learning from mistakes is so important. It's not just about avoiding the same mistake next time. It's about understanding the patterns, the behavior that led to it, and changing how you approach things in the future. It's hard to change, I know. Growth requires effort, patience, and a willingness to be uncomfortable with the process. A stupid man resists that change. He'll keep repeating the same actions because they're familiar. Even if those actions hurt him or those around him, he won't stop. He won't stop to reflect, to analyze, or to improve. And that's why, when you see someone stuck in a pattern of failure, it's clear. They're not learning. They're not growing. And that's dangerous because time doesn't wait for anyone. Think about it. How often do we see someone who's been through the same struggle time and time again, and they still don't get it? They're locked in their own world, spinning their wheels, convinced that this time will be different, but it never is. Why? Because they're not doing the work on themselves. They're not looking deep enough to understand the root cause of their failure. They just want to move on to the next thing without ever considering what they could have done better. And this is where wisdom comes into play. Wisdom isn't just knowing what's right or wrong in a given moment. It's knowing what's right for you, learning from past experiences, and using that knowledge to make better decisions in the future. A person who fails to learn from his mistakes lacks wisdom. He's stuck in a loop, perpetually repeating the same errors, never evolving, never growing. That's what separates the truly successful from the ones who keep falling short. Successful people don't get everything right on the first try. They fail, they stumble, but they don't let those failures define them. Instead, they learn from them. They take what they've learned, adjust their approach, and keep moving forward. The stupid man, however, will look at a mistake, brush it off, and think he's done with it. But if you don't take the time to process the lesson that failure offers, you're never going to improve. In the end, it's all about accountability. If you can't take responsibility for your actions, for the mistakes you've made, then you'll never truly grow. You'll remain in the same place, making the same mistakes, trapped in a cycle of mediocrity. To break free from that, you've got to take a step back and ask yourself, what did I learn from this? How can I do better? Without that reflection, without that willingness to grow, you'll remain in the same place, and that's a place no one should ever want to stay. Another sign of a stupid man is his overconfidence, but not the kind that comes from real ability or experience. No, I'm talking about the type of confidence that's all show and no substance. You've seen it before. The person who walks into a room like they've got it all figured out, strutting around like they're the smartest person in the place. They talk a big game, promise the world, but when it comes time to deliver, they're nowhere to be found. This kind of overconfidence can be dangerous. It's the kind of confidence that's based on nothing more than a facade. It's built on words, not actions. And the problem with that is, people like this often don't realize their limitations. They believe their own hype, think they can do anything, and they're blind to the fact that they might be completely out of their depth. They surround themselves with yes men, people who don't challenge them or point out their flaws, and in doing so, they sink deeper into this false sense of security. But here's the thing, confidence without substance is just arrogance. You see, real confidence comes from knowing what you're capable of and having the humility to acknowledge where you fall short. It's not about pretending you know it all or acting like you have every answer. No one does. The truly confident person isn't afraid to say, "I don't know," or "I need help." They don't need to prove anything to anyone because their actions speak louder than their words. But a stupid man, he's always talking. He's always making promises and talking about what he's going to do. And guess what? He rarely follows through. Why? Because the substance isn't there. The foundation isn't solid. And when things start to get tough, when the pressure is on, they crumble. That overconfidence, that bravado, it only takes you so far. Sooner or later, the truth comes out. People see right through the act. They see the lack of real skill, the inability to back up the big talk with tangible results. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is earned. Arrogance is just an act, and when you can't separate the two, that's when you start to fall. Overconfidence without any real ability or experience will only lead to failure, but worse than that, it leads to a lack of respect. People don't respect someone who talks big but can't back it up. They see them as a joke, and no one wants to be the punchline of a joke, right? This is especially evident in situations where decisions are being made, where lives are at stake, or when someone's future is on the line. A man who walks into these situations thinking he knows it all, without doing the necessary groundwork, the research, or the preparation, is playing a dangerous game. He might fool a few people at first, but eventually the truth catches up. The cracks start to show, and that's when you realize that confidence alone doesn't cut it. You can't just talk a good game, you have to play it. You have to show up with the skills, the knowledge, and the work ethic to back up what you're saying. Overconfidence isn't just an issue of ego. It's a sign of someone who's unwilling to grow. They think they've arrived, they think they know it all, and because of that, they stop learning. They stop challenging themselves. They stop pushing their own limits, and the result, they stagnate. They fail to evolve, and eventually they get left behind. True confidence doesn't come from pretending to know everything. It comes from being willing to admit that you don't know it all, from working hard, from learning from others, and from staying humble enough to recognize that growth is a lifelong process. If you're walking around with all this fake confidence, thinking you've got it made, sooner or later, you'll face a reality check. And when that moment comes, you'll either learn from it or you'll fall harder than you ever imagined. One of the most obvious signs of a stupid man is his inability to be open-minded, to listen, and to learn from others. He's the one who's always stuck in his ways, convinced that his perspective is the only valid one. It doesn't matter what evidence is presented to him or what other people have to say. He's not interested. If it's not his idea, if it doesn't fit into his narrow world, then it's wrong, and that's a problem. A big one. You see, a closed mind is like a locked door. No new ideas can get in, no new opportunities can get through, and the world doesn't stop just because you've decided to close yourself off. It keeps moving, it keeps evolving, and those who refuse to adapt get left behind. The stupid man, in his stubbornness, doesn't see that. He believes that his way is the only way, and that belief keeps him from growing, from learning, from evolving. He's trapped in a bubble, and the air inside that bubble is stale. Now, I know it's not always easy to be open-minded. It's tough sometimes to hear someone else's opinion when it goes against everything you believe, but that's the beauty of being human. You don't have to agree with everything you hear, but you have to listen. You have to be willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, there's something out there that can help you grow. There's something that might challenge your way of thinking, and that's a good thing. It's the only way we get better, the only way we get smarter, the only way we improve. A closed mind doesn't leave room for growth. It's like trying to plant seeds in a barren field. Nothing will grow there because the soil's not fertile. If you're not willing to hear people out, if you're not willing to consider new perspectives, then you're not going to get anything new out of life. You're going to keep running in circles, stuck in the same place, thinking the same thoughts, repeating the same actions, and getting the same results. A person who is open-minded is willing to look at things from different angles. They understand that their way of thinking is not the only way. They might have strong opinions, sure, but they also recognize that there are other ways to approach problems, other ways to understand the world. They ask questions, they listen, they learn, and because of that, they grow. The stupid man, on the other hand, will never ask questions because he thinks he knows everything. He'll never listen because he believes he's always right. It's not just about being open to new ideas. It's about being open to change. The world is constantly shifting, evolving, and if you're not open to that, you're going to find yourself out of touch. I'm sure you've seen it. People who are stuck in the past, who refuse to embrace new technologies, new ways of thinking, new approaches to life. They don't want to adapt, and as a result, they fall behind. And it's a sad thing to watch, because you know they have the potential to do better. You know they have the ability to grow, but they're so wrapped up in their own stubbornness that they don't even see the opportunities in front of them. Being open-minded isn't about abandoning your beliefs or giving up on your values. It's about recognizing that there's always room to learn, that there's always something you can take from another person's experience, from another perspective, that will help you grow and improve. A stupid man will never get that. He'll keep digging in his heels, thinking he's right, thinking his way is the only way, but in doing so, he misses the bigger picture. He misses the opportunity to connect with people, to learn from them, and to evolve as a person. So, don't be that person. Don't close yourself off. Don't get so comfortable in your own thinking that you forget to look around and see what else is out there. Be willing to challenge yourself, to listen to others, to learn from every experience and every conversation. It's the only way to keep growing, the only way to keep improving, and the only way to make sure that you're never left behind. Another big sign of a stupid man is his disregard for consequences. He's the kind of person who acts impulsively, never considering the long-term effects of his decisions. Whether it's a small choice or a big one, he charges ahead, thinking that the immediate satisfaction or the quick fix is all that matters. The problem with that, though, is that every action has a ripple effect. Every decision, no matter how small, has consequences that stretch far beyond the moment, and the stupid man doesn't see that. He's caught up in the thrill of the moment, the excitement of the now, but he doesn't understand that tomorrow the consequences will show up, and when they do, it's too late to change course. What happens when you make decisions without thinking them through? You create problems. You create chaos, both for yourself and for the people around you. Maybe it's a relationship you ruin because you didn't think about the impact of your words or actions. Maybe it's a career opportunity you let slip away because you acted too hastily or took a shortcut instead of putting in the hard work. Or maybe it's a financial decision that puts you in debt, a rash choice that leaves you with a mountain of regret. Whatever it is, the result is always the same. You're left dealing with the mess that comes from not considering the consequences first. People who fail to think ahead don't realize that the real cost of their impulsive actions isn't felt right away. It's like a time bomb. It's not until later that you start to feel the weight of the bad decisions you made, and by then, it's much harder to undo the damage. I've seen it happen too many times. Someone acts out of frustration, out of anger, or just to get a quick result, and they don't realize how deeply those actions can affect their future. They think the problem will just go away, or that it's no big deal. But eventually, the truth hits them like a ton of bricks. They didn't plan for the fallout, and now they're stuck with the consequences. What makes this even worse is when the stupid man refuses to acknowledge that his actions have consequences at all. He blames others. He points fingers. He makes excuses. but he never looks in the mirror and sees that it was his own impulsiveness that got him into this mess. The inability to take responsibility for your own choices is a huge sign of ignorance. You can't grow if you're constantly running from the truth. You can't learn from your mistakes if you don't own up to them. The truly wise person is the one who takes a moment before acting, who looks ahead and considers what might happen if they make a certain choice. They ask themselves, what will the result of this decision be? What will happen in 6 months, a year, 5 years from now? That's the difference between someone who's thinking long term and someone who's just acting on impulse. The stupid man is focused on the immediate gratification, the quick win. The wise person is looking at the bigger picture, knowing that sometimes you've got to delay gratification today to reap the rewards tomorrow. And this doesn't just apply to big decisions either. It's the small, everyday choices that add up. Maybe it's skipping that workout today, thinking you'll make it up tomorrow. Or maybe it's not having that difficult conversation with a friend, a loved one, or a colleague because you're afraid of the discomfort. Each of those small choices can have a ripple effect, shaping the course of your life in ways you don't even realize. The stupid man doesn't understand that. He thinks the little things don't matter, that he can just wing it and deal with the fallout later. But that's the mentality that keeps him stuck in the same place, making the same mistakes. The consequences of our actions are always there, whether we see them right away or not. But the more we act with awareness, with a sense of responsibility, the less likely we are to find ourselves trapped by the results of our impulsiveness. Life doesn't wait for you to catch up. It keeps moving, and if you're not taking the time to think ahead, you'll be left behind, picking up the pieces of decisions you made in haste. So, next time you're faced with a decision, big or small, stop and think. Consider the long-term impact of what you're about to do. Don't let the rush of the moment cloud your judgment. Remember, everything you do today affects the person you'll be tomorrow. The final sign of a stupid man is his inability to take responsibility for his life. Now, I'm not talking about the occasional slip-up we all make, because that's part of being human. What I'm talking about is a deep-rooted habit of deflecting blame, making excuses, and never owning up to the choices that have shaped his life. It's the kind of attitude that stops you from moving forward, from achieving your potential. When you can't take responsibility for your own life, you can't change it, you can't grow, and more importantly, you can't make progress. The stupid man is always looking for someone or something else to blame. He points the finger at his circumstances, his family, his friends, society, the government, anyone but himself. When things go wrong, it's never his fault. He never asks himself, what role did I play in this? What could I have done differently? Instead, he stays trapped in a victim mentality, convincing himself that he's helpless and that life is just unfair. Now, I get it. Sometimes life throws punches that are out of our control. We all face challenges. We all hit obstacles. But here's the thing. How you respond to those challenges is what defines you. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you have to accept blame for everything. It just means you acknowledge that you are in control of how you respond, and that the power to change your life is in your hands. It's easy to play the victim. It's easy to say, it's not my fault, and blame everything around you. But let me tell you something, that mindset is a trap. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you powerless, because as long as you're pointing fingers, you're not looking at yourself. And as long as you're not looking at yourself, you're not going to change. The people who take responsibility for their lives are the ones who see their failures as opportunities for growth, not as something they need to run from or hide behind. Taking responsibility means recognizing that the choices you make matter. It means understanding that the life you're living right now is the result of 1,000 decisions you've made over time. Some of those decisions were good, some were bad, but they were all yours. And you can either own that reality or you can live in denial, always blaming others for where you find yourself. The stupid man chooses denial. He chooses to live in the past, constantly blaming the world for his problems, refusing to see that the key to changing his future lies in the choices he makes today. You can't control everything in life. You can't control how others treat you. You can't control the hand you're dealt, but you can always control how you react, how you adapt, and how you move forward. That's responsibility. And when you take responsibility, you give yourself the power to change, to grow, and to improve. It's not easy, but it's the only path to progress. The stupid man, however, runs away from that truth. He's too afraid to face the fact that he has the power to shape his own destiny. Instead, he's content with blaming the world and playing the victim, never realizing that the real power comes from taking ownership of his own life. Look around at the people who are truly successful, those who have built something meaningful, who have overcome adversity. They aren't the ones who sit around blaming others. They're the ones who took responsibility for their actions, who accepted their failures and learned from them. They don't waste time pointing fingers. They're too busy moving forward, making better choices, and working towards the future they want to create. At the end of the day, the only thing you can control is yourself. The stupid man doesn't get that. He's too caught up in finding excuses and blaming everything around him. The wise man, on the other hand, knows that life is about taking responsibility, no matter what comes your way. If you want to change your life, it starts with you. Own your decisions, own your actions, own your mistakes, because the minute you take responsibility for your life, you take the first step toward truly changing it.